Good morning, welcome to another episode. We are in the Model Y today, aren't we, Florence?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see Florence, she's in the back because we don't have the
Now
isofix.
you can see me.
Hello! Please remember to check out our other videos and to click on the subscribe button and tap on the bell icon so you get notifications each time we upload another video. We don't have the isofix kit yet for the front, so Florence is in the back at the minute, aren't you?
Yes!
What do you think of the Model Y?
It's good.
It's good. So we picked this up on Friday. First impressions are it feels a lot bigger than the Model 3, but I don't think actually it is that much bigger. It just feels it. I think it's a much different driving position. You're much higher up, which I quite like. One of the things I noticed immediately was that the build quality feels better than the Model 3 that we had. The doors open and shut much more quietly, which I know seems like a silly thing to say, but it's noticeable. It feels a higher quality. The interior is much nicer. It feels much more sturdy. So yeah, the interior layout's fairly similar, like with the armrest, under armrest storage, the 2 cup holders, the storage in front of the cup holders. It's also got this really odd feature, which is quite funny and it's amused us, that it has a speaker somewhere, it seems, on the outside, and you can make lots of different noises by pressing a button, so that's entertaining. Obviously not a reason to choose a car, but it's a nice little addition, especially if you've got kids. So one of the really big differences is the space on the inside of the Model Y. So the boot space is obviously different because it's not a saloon like the Model 3. It's got a really nice big boot, and if you lift up the boot floor, it's got that extra space underneath, like the Model 3 and the Model S do as well. There's a funky little function where you can just press a button and it folds down the rear seats to extend your boot space, which makes it a really sort of cavernous space, which would be really useful for us, particularly if you're going on holiday, that kind of thing. Space inside. Now James sat in the back yesterday just so we could test out the space in the back, and it's enormous. He can sit with his legs sort of stretched out in the back while I'm in my driving position. So if you've got, you know, teenage children, this is probably a good car for you. I think it's much quieter than the Model 3, bearing in mind we had the Performance Model 3, which has a really hard suspension, and you did feel every bump, every single bump. It wasn't a pleasure to be a passenger necessarily. In this, it instantly felt smoother, a smoother ride, handles really well still. Obviously doesn't have the same amount of torque as the Model 3 Performance, but it's got plenty, you know, more than you can need really, which is fine for us with a small person. In the Model 3, the seats weren't overly comfortable. Again, if you were driving, it wasn't so bad. If you were a passenger, I mean, I've not got particularly long legs, but there wasn't a lot of support for your legs. So if on a long journey, it did get quite uncomfortable. These seats seem to be much more supportive, and they're also higher, so you can sit with your legs at a right angle, which is your optimum seating position, because you've got the support under your thigh, and you can sit with your legs at a much more comfortably, especially as a passenger. But even as a driver, I'm finding this a much more comfortable seat so far. It's also heated, as the other ones were, which I appreciate. And this has a heated steering wheel, which I'm going to be so pleased of in the winter. In terms of looks, I do really like it. I think I prefer it to the Model 3, but the Model S will still be my all-time favourite of the Teslas. I just think it just looks so stylish. My sister saw this yesterday and she says it looks like it's been pumped up, and it does a bit. It has that kind of, I don't know, steroid look to it, but it's really nice. So it's got a really nice kind of smooth outline. I'm going to get Florence off to school, and then I will see you a bit later on. Can you say bye, Florence?
Bye.
So predominantly this car is going to be used by me, so for me it has to be practical in terms of family life. And one thing I always look for in any car is whether it's going to work for people with children. So this is a nice high car, so I mean Florence gets in and out the car now by herself, so it's not a big issue for us, but we do still have to lean over and obviously attach her seatbelt. But it's so good because if you were putting a baby in, you're not having to bend so much to put the child in, and there's a nice big wide door, so you can lean in, put your baby in, strap it in, do whatever you need. And the boot space, I mean, it's brilliant. Model S had a really good boot space. This has a really good boot space. Model 3 wasn't great. You had to sort of slide things in, but our running buggy's in the back now in here, and it was so easy to put in and out. So for things like buggies, shopping, anything like that is much more practical than a Model 3. I think I said before, practicality wise in terms of family, if you've got bigger children, young teens, you know, with really long legs, you've got so much space in the back. I don't know whether you could fit 3 children's seats across the back. That isn't something we've tested, and I know people with 3 children need 3 seats, so that would be useful to know. Not entirely sure. Depends how big your seats were, I guess. I can't get over the difference in the seats. I don't really know exactly what it is, apart from the fact that I don't know if the seats on the Model 3 were kind of slanted, so you were sitting in a dip almost, whereas with these, yes, you still got a slight recline on the base of the seat, but you can adjust that a bit more, and you can raise the seat up so that your legs are, like I said, at right angles, and it's just such a comfortable position to be in. I definitely feel like this for a long journey would be much more comfortable than the Model 3 that we had before. If anybody's driven a Model X, you'll know when you get inside it, there's this enormous feeling of space, and that's to do with the massive windscreen and the panoramic roof. And this doesn't have quite the same as the X, but it still feels very spacious, even though it's got blacked out windows at the back, which it came with, whereas with our Model 3 we had to do those ourselves. But even with those, it doesn't feel dark and dingy. It feels really light and airy and spacious, and it's just a nice car to be in. Just done the school drop off, and I'm driving now to go to work. I've not got a very busy day today. I'm on duty, so I don't really leave my phone. But yesterday I had a reasonably busy day, and I've got to say, throughout the day I just liked this car more and more. The more I'm getting used to it, the easier it is to drive, and it's just a really nice car. I was saying to James yesterday, I'm struggling to find anything that I really don't like about it. I suppose the only thing I could say is that compared to some other electric cars, the ride isn't as comfortable. So it's much more comfortable than the Model 3. It's much more smooth and cushioned, so when you're going over bumps you don't feel them quite as much. In the Model 3 you felt everything, and in this it's definitely not as bad. But it's not as comfortable as, say, something like the Nissan Ariya, which was insanely comfortable. Myself and James aren't generally that fond of the SUV style vehicles, because they're generally not as efficient as the non-SUV electric vehicles that you get. But with this, actually so far, the efficiency is running at around about the same as our Model 3, which is quite a surprise really, because it is a very much bulkier car. It's not as streamlined. I mean, I guess it'll be easier to sort of give a proper figure after a week or so of driving it, but currently the efficiency isn't that bad. So I was a little bit unsure about the shape of the Model Y. I wasn't really 100% convinced on whether I was going to like it or not, but I actually really do. I've mentioned in some of my other videos that my favourite Tesla previously was the Model S, and I think it still is, but this is definitely my second favourite in terms of looks and style. We have got the upgraded wheels here, which I think look really nice, and on all the Model Ys you get it's de-chromed, which again I wasn't so sure about. I've seen people do it on Model S's and I've not really liked it, but actually looks really good. The rear windows are tinted as standard, which is also really good. We find that useful, especially when Florence is in the back and it's really sunny. But it also just gives you that little bit of privacy. Here is the boot space. The Model Y boot is so much better than the boot we had on the Model 3. I hated that boot. You had to slide everything in, and access was just not great at all. But this is a nice big boot space. Just push that back, you can see all the space there, and you've got a couple of little buttons just here. I don't know if you can see that. And if you press those, I'm not going to do it because Florence's car seat is currently in position, but that just flicks the rear seats forward, and then you have an extra big space. Underneath the boot floor, there's also extra space. And I don't know if you can see that there, but we've added a boot liner as well, just to protect the boot floor, because we often have the running buggy in and it's often muddy. And we had one in our previous Tesla and it was definitely worth having. You also get this acoustic parcel shelf, which you didn't get on the earlier models. So if you've got anything in your boot, you can keep it covered. In terms of styling from the rear, my sister made a good point. She said it looks a little bit like it's been pumped up, and it does. It's kind of a lot more SUV in style, but I do like it. It's got kind of a mean look to it. I'll just take you round. Florence's car seat's in the back, so it can be attached to the Isofix. We haven't got the kit to put it on the front, but we are going to get that. James has found, he's sat in the back more than me, that there is just so much leg room, even when the driver's seat is reclined like it is now in James's position. There's lots and lots of space, lots of headroom. Really good. So much easier getting Florence in and out of there. Well, she gets in and out by herself really now, but if I was having to lift her in and out, it'd be much easier than it was on the lower Model 3. Something a little bit different to our previous Teslas, they've continued the wood panelling onto the doors, which is really, really nice. And the overall finish of the interior just feels so much better. James has fitted this USB-C adapter in here. The Model Y comes with wireless charging, which is fantastic. We fitted it ourselves on the Model 3, but it was a bit temperamental. This so far has been absolutely spot on. No issues with charging at all. But we have also had, James has also fitted this, so it means that when the passenger is wanting to look at their phone and wanting to charge, they can do that, because obviously once it's on wireless charging, you can't pick your phone up. And lastly, we fitted a power frunk onto the Model Y, which is really useful. You can open it from the app on your phone or from inside the car. Really decent space. If you're going on holiday or you've got small people and you've got lots of extra stuff, really useful. I think we're going to have a light as well fitted around here, just so, you know, at night time you can see a little bit better. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter @KatePhantom, and we'll see you again soon with another episode.